Hi, everybody who is going to be watching this later on. This is the Leadership Circles where we share real life stories about people who have been in one or two positions that have helped a lot of people in this society, especially in Africa. We're sharing their stories, their setbacks, their success stories, and how they were able to transition from one problem to solution, from one solution to greater heights. And I hope this helps you to better prepare yourself for the journey ahead and better make decisions about your business, your life, your career, and whatever it is that you're going to be facing moving forward. So we are happy to see that we have somebody that is, very experienced in a lot of things, especially in the area of virtual reality and extended reality. And for me, I've watched Arome for a very long time. We've connected so many, I think some years back, but we've not had the opportunity to have a conversation like this. So I'm really, really happy that we're able to have this conversation. And I know that what we are going to discuss here today is going to help a lot of people. So without wasting much of our time, Arome, you're welcome. Just for those who have not heard you before, who have not seen you, who don't know you, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, just to get started?
Hello, everyone. My name is Arome Ibrahim. I'm super excited to be here to also support my great brother Dominic on this project. So I am basically, I love tech. I love emerging tech. And my journey is more or less unconventional. So I did not really study computer science in school. I studied geography. And I think this podcast really shed a lot of insight on how to not just start right, but to just learn on the journey, right? Currently, I am the programs director of Immersive Tech Africa. And Immersive Tech Africa is a non-profit organization that is focused on training youth across Africa to get started with emerging tech, such as artificial intelligence, virtual reality, and augmented reality, and the future of tech, basically. And we do that through trainings. We have a yearly training program where we train close to like 100 youths remotely in Africa to get started over 12 weeks. And I've also, I have like a for-profit business called Express Immersive, which is focused on building experiences for businesses that want to try out cool stuff and engage their clients, right? So I'm more around business, ecosystem development, and also social impact.
For me, it's daring to see how you can get into a new space without having prior knowledge. For me, I've been a tech person in the beginning. Like, I've been a tech person from when I was very young, and my dad knew that that was one area that I was proficient in, and then he was pushing me towards that direction. So he helped me to push me even in the university. I had to study. I had two admissions actually. I had in agric and I had in tech. So he said, okay, the best option is for you to tech because of your own technical understanding, right? So, but then again, for you, was there any defining moment that made you to realize that, okay, now is the time to dedicate yourself to this particular path rather than the geography that you initially studied?
I would say everything in life has a purpose. Yeah, I would lie to you that studying geography was a bad thing. No, right? Till today, I'm still benefiting from the fact that I studied geography, right? Because a lot of opportunities are coming my way because I have that experience in climate change, in geography, and the rest, right? So most times our journey end up aligning in the long run, right? We might not see it at that moment, but it eventually aligns. Right. For example, my dad wanted me to study medicine or medical lab. Right. I tried with JAM and all, that didn't come true, and I was given geography. Right. And funny enough, in secondary school, I was very good in geography, like in the class. So see me now having geography for my bachelor's degree. But I think the turning point for me was in my final year, right? And I was thinking, what do I do next, right? Millions of Nigerian youths finishing university are thinking, what do I do next? And me, I wanted to do something different, right? So I remember trying to see how I could position myself for the job market. and the best way is to learn some tech skills, right? So I started watching YouTube videos, learned to build my first website using WordPress, started playing around with plugins, with Teams, right? And I think that was the first opportunity that came my way. I got a remote job to manage a website for a client, right? And it was cool because I'm almost done with school. I'm already earning money, right? And I said, oh, this is it. I need to explore it. But my tech journey did not start from that moment, right? It all happened after I was running up my NYC, and I had the opportunity to attend a Meta event, right? It was Facebook as at then. So they were organizing a road show, and they were trying to onboard hubs within Nigeria to get started with virtual reality. And so that was like the first. That was in 2017. That was like the first opportunity that I had to try out emerging tech virtual reality. And when I had the glasses over my eyes, I remember telling myself that, oh, this thing is amazing, because wearing the headset, I was in Abuja, but in the headset, I was in India, right? I was in the Taj Mahal in India. And I was like, wow, this is magic through tech. And I remember telling my friends that we need to get started. And we ended up saving 50K each as a then to buy our first VR headsets. And when we got it, the tech was still new. Basically, people did not know anything about it, right? So we had two jobs to do: to build for the tech and to also orientate people about the technology, right? So even though we were doing the business of virtual reality, we needed to orientate people on the possibilities of how amazing the technology is, right? So we had to be very active online, organizing events, organizing programs to orientate people about how this tech can make the most impact. And everything just blew up since then. We had work on some amazing projects with some top companies. And it has just been God's grace, I would say, because the journey has not been smooth. We have had some wins, we have had some failures here and there, but I would say it's an impactful journey, and I believe everybody has that mission on earth to make a purpose, basically.
Yeah, this kind of makes sense. For me, I got into actual work in tech similar to, what you are saying. I designed my first website in, I think, the year I was graduating from the university. So the year I was graduating, I had a friend who his dad was in Mali at the time. So he was in Mali at the time, and so the dad needed a shipping company site. So I was like, I wouldn't say I had like all the pieces together on what to do, but I knew that I had tested WordPress before. So I knew it was possible for me to be able to get it off the ground. I said, okay, just don't worry, connect us together. I know I will do something. That was how I launched my first website as well. So I can connect with your story. And besides, those of you who are just watching, 50K is actually 50,000 naira. And to be sincere with you, as much as it meant something at the time, 50,000 naira was money at the time. So I can see where you're coming from, and I can see what impact that had for you in your business. But nonetheless, was there anybody at that time that was like a key influence, more like a mentor or somebody you are looking up to in that area that shaped how you started leading your team? Because I know that you started working with others, but I know you got to a point in time where you started bringing people on board where you are overseeing them. So was there a particular person you are looking up to at the time that helped you to shape your thinking, your mindset towards leading a team or something like that?
I would mention, first of all, God. Yeah, starting with that. Yeah, God was a major factor. Yeah, because without him, the ideas, the possibilities would have not been possible. Then I would also mention my family, right? They have been very supportive. They were like my first team, because staying up late, burning the midnight candle, right? And just being that supportive system was quite good, right? But in terms of industry, I'll mention two people that have supported my journey. The first one is Jeremy Dalton. So Jeremy Dalton is the former head of XR at PwC UK. He's like the one of the top in the industry, and I only got access to him via LinkedIn, right? Because I was regularly sharing my updates, my journeys, the programs we're working on, and he kind of connected, right? So see me, Arome in Nigeria, talking to like the head of XR in PwC in the UK, right? Right. Somebody I can just message and say, hey, maybe I'm stuck somewhere, I don't understand this process. Can we have a call? And he'll spend 30 minutes of his time to have a chat with me, right? So that shows you the value of having good mentors. It might not be in their space, right? But if you are regularly churning out good value, right, they can see it and they can resonate with it. And with time, they'll come around, right? So even though they are not that close to you, just keep doing what you're doing, right? Be true to yourself, be authentic, and everything will fall in place, right? So Jeremy is now like, even though he's no longer with PwC, he's like an industry leader that I look up to. He's an amazing speaker. He has done some amazing projects with VR. And it's somebody that shows that even though you are working for a multinational company, you can still make an impact within the community and within the industry. And the second person would be Eric Brown, who is currently a generative AI specialist at Microsoft. So formerly he was at the XR part of Microsoft before he switched to the generative AI. But he's somebody that has really gone through a lot in his own journey, right? And he's now like at the top of the industry doing amazing work. But in terms of leadership, in terms of their leadership style, they are very open, right? And I feel as a leader, if people that work with you can say very good stuff about you, right? Like without you being there, shows you are doing a good work, right? And also them going out of their way to support you, support your journey, shows you are leading right? So it's important that no matter how big or small your team is, always lead by example and be open to new ideas, new scope. You cannot be perfect in your direction, but be open to giving rooms for other people to lead and to own it if possible, and you just taking a step back to observe.
For me, these are great stories. I understand what it means for you to be building, and industry experts are seeing what you are building, and then seeing that in as much as there's limited resources, in as much as there are no, as much as you would have, you are still trying as much as you can to make something out of it. And I think this is one thing that most people who have grown far take a look at when they see people coming up. When they see that zeal, that commitment, they think this is somebody that is worth investing in. And I've seen that you have traveled a lot. I've seen you've traveled a lot around this particular thing. It means you have really dedicated your resources and time to it. And it's something you believe in, and they can see that by the effort you are making.
Yeah, let me share a short joke to you. I remember when we went for a competition. I don't know if you know the Next Economy program, which was supported by the Dutch Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and we were in the final page and we eventually won it. And I remember calling my mom. I was like, "Hey mom, we just won 5,000 euros." She was like, "You won 5,000 euros? Oh yeah, start running home." Right? When I go home and she was like, "Oh, you had." So there's that joy when your parents see your dedication. Yeah, they see you staying up late, burning the midnight candles, paying off. It's not reach a stage that they'll start even praying for yourself, like, okay, this thing you're doing may go well, because they're not seeing the benefits of it, right? And that shows how important to stay at it, right? It might be slow, it might be delayed, but just stay at it, right? It's you building your strength, building your capabilities, building your network, right? We're in a society whereby everybody wants to do it super fast, right? People want to do what will take 30 years in 5 years, right? Life is not like that, even though it's possible, but you will not really have that stamina to see it through, right? So it's important we enjoy the journey, enjoy the process, right? I won't lie to you. Some days were crazy, some days were slow, some days were as low as being broke, right? But we kept at it. We kept at it. People came and went. A lot of people came and they went. But having a very good support system was important. And I'm also grateful to my founding team members, right? They have been there through thick and thin. And even though everybody has explored different avenues and different paths, we are still together and still enjoying what we're doing best.
Yeah, I totally understand where you're coming from. You see, in a country like this, or in a continent like Africa, you have to be patient. One, because of the terrain. The whole African terrain is some things that come in new takes time to mature, not just in the sense of the thing itself, but for people to get accustomed to it to the point they will begin to accept it. I came into, okay, for example, I stay in Jalingo, Taraba State. And in Jalingo, at the time I came here newly, the idea of tech, it was not as if it wasn't there, but there was a fallback for everybody. So everybody who started a tech business ended up becoming a training center after 2 years or after 3 years. So that thing was consistent over a period of time, and I saw that consistency. And I knew that if I was going to make a mark in the tech space here, I have to be resilient. I don't need to fall for that particular outcome. So I need to push hard, make it work. And the moment you start doing it, everybody within the community will start supporting you because they've not seen that thing before. They've seen some people come and go, but you've been there, you've been keeping at it. So you begin to meet, like at the time I was working partly with the governor's office at the time. So the governor of the state, he had an ICT office. So I was working with some of the people in the ICT office. And this was just basically by, they saw me in this space. I've had the opportunity to meet with people in multiple nations that are from Taraba that connected with me because of what I was doing in the state. So these are some of the things I know for sure. I can tell you from experience. And I know a lot of people need to hear this, that their mindset of achieving 30 years worth of thing in 5 years is too unrealistic, even though it is possible for those that have enough resources. What about those that don't have? They have to be patient. And when you are patient building, what is going to happen is you have the stamina, like you said, the stamina to withstand every challenge. But if it comes to you easy, when there's a problem, you don't know what to fall back to.
True.
So I get what you are trying to say, and I get the picture you are trying to paint. And I hope that a lot of people listening to this will get that particular picture. However, you've come to a point in time where you've grown. 5,000 euros is not small money. Now, imagine I was part of the Tony Elmele Foundation program, and I know what $5,000 is. But $5,000 cannot be equated to 5,000 euros. So you've gotten some sort of headway, and I know you've gotten a lot of opportunities moving forward, right? Mm-hmm. But how do you balance purpose with profitability? Some people compromise on purpose so that they can become profitable, right? Some people will just say, okay, now we are getting a couple of money. Let's just double down on what is giving us money and forget why we started it in the first place. So how do you balance the two?
Yeah, it's a very tricky balance. I think you're the second person asking me this question in a different way. I had a friend, he came to my house and was like, he's a product designer. Yeah, and it was like, he has been seeing my stuff and all those kind of stuff, yeah. But for him, he would, and I asked him a question, I was like, profits or impact? Which would you go first? Yeah, and he was like, he'll go for profit and then impact afterwards. I was like, that's good, yeah. But think about it, if you had the profits, how long would that profit make your name a mark for years to come? Yeah, you could have the profit and 2 years, nobody will know you, nobody will know what you have done. Yeah, but you could have that impact, and your name will be etched on the sands of time for time to come, right? That even our kids will know that, oh, We are part of the pioneers of this, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. So for me, even though we have bills to pay, we have stuff to do, right? I feel going the route of making an impact will give you access to the resources you need and eventually the profit, right? Let me give you a scenario. We were invited to attend an event in Saudi Arabia, right? Yeah, an event in Saudi Arabia. And up to today, I still don't know how that invitation came about, right? And to be sincere, this is Arome on a business class flight to Saudi Arabia in a 5-star hotel, right? With a buffet meal that that I had to go and ask the receptionist. I hope I'm not on any bill, because it was free food. Everything was free, and I was sitting down with people that even if I had the money, I would not have the access to them, right? But how did I do that? It was because of the work I've done and the impact that I've made that gave me that venue to sit on the same table with them, right? So even though we're in a time whereby everybody is out for the money, one way or the other, I feel having a good name counts, right? Your name can open doors for you, right? Your good name can open doors for you. The impact and the work you have done can open doors for you. Even recommendations are based on how good you are and how impactful your projects have been. You just mentioned that you worked on a project with the governor of your state. I think earlier this year we worked on a project that was implemented by the office of the vice president, right? And how did that project came about? It's because our network have seen the work we have done, right? And they know that we can deliver on that project, right? So this is the president trying out the experience, like wearing the headset and trying it out. Shows you how important consistency is, how important having a good name is, how important it is also good to be good to people, right? Most people want to just make the money and dump people, right? But no, right? Good relationship counts. It might not pay at first, but keep at it, right? We have had recommendations that were based from us just doing the work, and eventually the money came, right? The money really came. So it's important to it's difficult, right? Because we have bills to pay, we have responsibilities, right? So it's like a two-way system, but just try and be at the middle whereby you enjoy what you're doing, right? You're making the most impact, right? And the money comes along the way, right? But having that mindset of money first can stress you out a lot, because if you don't see the money coming, you'll be like you're wasting your time. But I always believe having a good name is good, because that's forever, right? And a lot of people can acknowledge you for your work, right? So imagine, for example, maybe somebody's thinking of a project in, I don't know, you said Zamfara, or where are you at the moment? Sorry. Somebody's thinking of a project in Jalingo. Who will pop up? Dominic, obviously, because you have said that, you have done the work. Yeah. So, for example, if you're talking about maybe VR in Nigeria, right, we'll definitely pop up because we have done the work, we have trained people, we have made that impact, right? So, I feel doing that first is good. It builds your credibility, it builds your network, and it opens you up to the profit you're now eventually looking at the end.
Most people don't care about how what they are doing affects others, and this is something I like to tell anybody that gives me his ear. I like to tell you that if you really want to do something that will last, it is the people that you do it for that will make it last, not you yourself. So if people are not affected, there's no transformation that people experience. Even the reward, which is money that you are going to be looking for, you won't get it. So I think I understand what you are saying. Purpose is very, very important. In fact, if we in Africa can transition our mindset to purpose first, then money later, I think we have a good African. If people are not focusing more on money first, then purpose later, we are going to have a huge difference, because I know a lot of people that might be able to transform the whole continent. But what they are looking for is money. They want to see something that is more profitable than it is about making impact. Where we are today, is as a result of the impact that people had made before. Maybe in their own generation, they didn't really get much out of it, but we are
Mm.
benefiting from the little things that they did that time. And see, today we are looking at, or we are building from where they stopped. Okay, now with that said, what was your biggest challenge? Not just from transitioning from the old school geography and all that, but generally, when you started gaining some sort of traction, started gaining
Mm.
recognition, what was the major challenge? What were the major challenges you faced within this period?
I would say it was more or less two things, right? When we started off, we needed resources because this hardware were not cheap. VR headsets were not cheap, right? And we needed that resources to um, get as much as possible, right? And when we started off, our initial service offering was just creating virtual experiences for real estates and maybe businesses that want to showcase their spaces, right? So that did not require a lot of hardware. But moving on to servicing schools, educational institutions, that required more headsets than we had. And that was a lot because the headsets were not that cheap. But we tried as much as possible to find that balance, right? So whereby we got as much resources from what was giving us the most inflow, which is experiences for spaces, and channel that to getting those hardwares that are required for maybe education showcases and maybe institutional experiences, right? So I would say finances was a lot, right? But we're able to make way with support from our networks and mentors. Secondly, I would say talent, right? It's a new tech, unlike maybe web dev and all those kind of stuff. So we did not really have that pool of people in Nigeria that were really doing it because the industry requires patience, right? Requires patience to be good at it, and most people did not really have that. So it was very scarce to find good talents. It got to it got to the extent that we knew each other. You cannot say you are doing a project in Lagos. We already know who you are doing the project with in Lagos because we're very few that were doing VR and AR as at then. And I think that's one of the reasons why we launched our nonprofit initiative, Immersive Tech Africa, to train these young people that are coming up, that are interested in tech, because we're not going any younger. Yeah, and we need to transfer that knowledge to these guys to pick up and move with it, right? And I'm glad to see that a lot of initiatives have popped up that are now supporting these talents to build with VR and AR. We have initiatives like the AR VR Africa in Lagos. They are doing amazing stuff there. And Immersive Tech Africa in Abuja, which is more or less servicing the North and North Central, is also doing amazing stuff too. So I would say resources, talent was also a problem. And I think we have one way or the other been able to solve that and moving forward at the moment.
Yeah, finances is one thing that I think virtually every startup or every business starting or everybody willing to do something that makes sense might face. But like you said, in as much as those challenges are there are channels through which you can cover up at one point in time. And with more people believing in what you are doing, being able to communicate what you are doing properly for people to key into it, I think it can help mitigate some of the challenges that you might have. And I can agree with you with the aspect of talent. Africa has been a place where we believe talent is, right? But in that space that was kind of new, having people within that space was really difficult because already it was new. And the initiative of trying to create that non-profit was a very, very um, wise initiative. A lot of people see it as just playing. We had a non-profit and then, but the impact it had on your business, I think it's huge because now you have talent to work with. You've trained them, giving them the resources in terms of mental and knowledge wise, and now you can now hire them to work for you, and other people can now hire them too. So you see, the impact you are making is not only affecting your own business, but affecting other people who are coming into the space. This is one of the reasons why impact is very, very important. Just imagine how many people, how many VR businesses exist because you were able to train a couple of people. That's huge. That's
And
massive.
and to add, yeah, I think there's no greater joy than seeing somebody saying, "Oh, hi, hello, thank you so much. Your inspiration, your motivation, your direction was able to help kickstart my journey." Right? I feel that's beyond money. Like that's beyond money because you have one way or the other helped somebody to get started, and they are now being able to stand on their own and put food on the table. Right? I'll give a very good example of a very good guy called Ryan, who was based in Port Harcourt, and we needed to work on a project in Abuja, a VR project, and we needed extra hands, right? So the client was able to bring Ryan, who was quite young then from Port Harcourt, because he was quite good with VR, down to Abuja for the project. And to this day, Ryan is doing very well, right? From the project, he has been able to do a lot of stuff, right? Have his own apartment, got married, has a kid, right? So imagine I did not reach out to him to come to Abuja, right? I don't think that part of his life would have kickstarted because the purpose there was we would set up our business, this project would come, would reach out to Ryan, and he'll come to Abuja and his life would change. Yeah. So it shows you the importance of how, no matter how small it is, the impact can be felt largely, right? And most times, God uses people to kickstart the lives of others directly and indirectly.
Yeah, I agree with you. I totally agree with you. I for one, is a product of help. I mean, it may not be necessarily in my business, but in other areas of my life. A couple of people that believed in me, that trusted me, that gave me opportunities in certain other things, and it opened up new channels for me that I can also be of help to others as well. So I totally I believe what you are saying, and I've seen it impact in my own life personally. But then again, there are young innovators coming up now, and what advice do you have for them if they really want to make something that will be of help to their community, actually change their community? What is one advice you would say that they should have? Because I know you've done a lot to change everything within the African space in the VR industry. And I know a lot of people are coming up with in new industries, coming up with new innovations. What are the things you think they should know in order for them to make that lasting impact in their community?
I would say, first of all, is discover yourself, right? Discover yourself. Discover what you are passionate about, what excites you, what energizes you, right? It might be tech, it might not be tech, but find what you can go a day long doing and not get tired, right? And when you have found that, build a business or a value around it, right? To the extent that people can pay you for that, and you see that you enjoy doing what you're doing and you're getting paid for it, right? So discover yourself. In the process, you get to find your purpose and you find your why, right? So why are you on earth, right? And how are you going to make that impact? So when you have done that, you now need to get the needed skill set, right? It's not just to say you really want to make an impact. You have the skills to make that impact, right? So discover how you can acquire that, either being part of programs, initiatives, or just self-learning, right? You could go to YouTube University and self-learn, right? I built my first website from YouTube by watching videos. The videos will play on one side, WordPress will be on one side as the person is doing it. Yeah, so just start. Yeah, it doesn't need to be perfect. Just start, and before you know, people will start paying you money to do what you enjoy doing, and you just be the best version of yourself, right? So just discover your purpose, right? Self-discover that passion and talent that you have, and then build skills around it. And before you know, you start earning good and making the most impact.
Okay, I know you've already shared with me before about the difficulty you experienced, earlier on in your journey, the challenges that you have faced. But was there any time that there was doubt? Because now you are doing this thing is not really. There are times where it has not moved. It's on one point. It's not moving. It's not going forward. It's just there. But anytime that you really had doubt in what you are doing, that it caused you to rethink whether or not this is the best thing I'm supposed to be doing at this point in time. And how did you handle that particular challenge?
Yeah, I would say there have been times like that, times when there's no money in the accounts, right? When projects are not coming in as they used to, right? You get to think a lot of things and doubt a lot of processes, right? But I feel having a good support system was key, right? So good friends that can always inspire you to keep pushing, right? My partners, they were simply amazing, right? They are people that have been with me through thick and thin, and we have also been together, basically supporting our journeys directly and indirectly. So I would say I've had that time, right? But the support system was impactful and was amazing, and also setting up structures of good networks and good people. So that's why having a good name is important, and having a good network, because you can leverage on that to make do when it's more or less like a cloudy day. Right? So having a good structure and a good support system can help you to overcome some days that you're not really making that most impact. And yeah, I think that's it basically.
The idea of no money in the bank account is something that I know that a lot of people who start something face. However, there are very few people who actually get to talk about it, get to tell others. Because imagine that it's one of the reasons why we do what we are doing. Because imagine that somebody out there is having money problems. He doesn't have any money in his bank account, and he's like 50% into what he has always wanted to do, and is doubting if he could move forward. Something like this can make him understand that he's not the only person. He's not the only person that has been there, but there's always a way out. And these are the things that I like to see and I like to hear people talk about. A lot of advices are out there. There are a lot of advices out there, but how do you get people that share raw truth about their own personal experiences and how you can scale through from there? I find it difficult to, I'm an online person, and I read a lot online, and I've seen a lot of people share challenges that they are facing, and there are no solutions for them. The idea of building a name that is really, really good, integrity, having a good name of it, like something that is, a good name with integrity is something I feel that most people lack. You go on there, you just want to do something that will begin to bring the money in. Whether or not you smear your heart is not your business. Whether or not it kills your conscience is really not your business. The most important thing is, let me get some money out of this thing that I'm actually doing. And it will crumble everything that you have been working for years. Right. So just like you said, after 2 years, you have the money, nobody's hearing your name again. And that's all. You've ended
Funny
it.
enough, one thing I always say is the internet never forgets, right? It never forgets. So you might say, oh, I'm getting away with it, I'm making the money and I'm enjoying myself, right? I don't care if it's good money or not. The internet never forgets, right? So we should always have that at the back of our head that some of these activities will definitely go out there, right? So we should always make sure they are good ones, right? And not the ones that will smear our names for generations to come.
I totally agree with you. And nonetheless, with that said, that there are people who are, great people right now, but they're experiencing some sort of failure in an aspect. Let's say failure in the initial business that they started, or failure in one area of what they are building right now, what they've built right now. So was there a point in time when you failed at something, either with what you are doing right now or with something else that you've left behind? And was that more like what lessons do you get from it that affect how you really do things these days, how you lead people these days, how you work with team members these days, how you work with other people in different areas, different niches and all that?
I would say some of the failures I've had was just the project I started and did not finish, right? Some of them that I invested a lot in them, but they did not really kick off. And some of the lessons I learned from that is there's always time for everything, right? Most times it might not be that right, it might not be the right time to launch that idea or that project, right? But we should not be hard on ourselves, right? We should rather learn from the mistakes and from the failures and position for the right time to launch it, right? Um, we have done some, we have invested some resources in projects that ended up folding up, right? We're looking forward to launching an application for schools. We did the research, we did the application, but that did not kick off, yeah, because of the some of the headaches we had with the onboarding process, right? But that did not stop us from still building the application and making it better as we went. And before we knew it, the headache of hardware did not come up again because schools started buying their own VR headsets in Abuja, and they needed applications for those headsets that were made for Nigerian schools, right? So now they are now leveraging on that application to train their kids in the classrooms, right? So most times it might not be now, but keep at it. When the time comes, the availability will be there and the demand will be there and the impact will just be amazing.
So what you're trying to say is build for the future, because you can do something that is not relevant now, but
Yeah,
in a few months and it's going to really be
yeah.
relevant. I know that I've talked about challenges, I know I've talked about doubt, but how on earth do you stay consistent, resilient with what you have been doing right until now?
Um,
If the times were there, the times money was not were not available. But how? What are the things? You know, you mentioned things like you had good friends, you had people. But I know that is not just it. There are things that are pushing you to keep going. Things that are pushing you to keep going. What are the things that are pushing you to keep going?
I think this is where I have to go spiritual. Yeah. Most times I see my pastor, Bishop David Oyedepo, he'll be saying when they started off, they were just maybe 4 or 6. And most people be like, they cannot go far, they cannot do anything. Yeah. But he kept with the vision. A lot of people came and went, but he kept with the vision, right? And see where they are now. They are building like one of the largest church auditorium in the world at the moment. It shows you the power of consistency, right? For me personally, I've had doubts, right? I've had doubts whereby I was saying, what am I doing, right? My friends are working in multinational companies. They're earning big. They are doing amazing stuff, right? But I've come to understand that most times it's that purpose that you have been made to do that's important. And when you eventually find that, you would understand that everything that you need in life would come and would come at the right time, right? Um, because of that purpose, I've had the opportunity to study abroad for free. Like I did not pay 1 naira, and all expense paid, fully funded scholarship to study abroad in Europe for 18 months for free because of the work I've done prior to that, right? This is something that will cost maybe 50 million or 100 million naira to do, but I'm doing a fully funded master's in some of the top business schools in Europe for free, right? So it shows you the power of consistency and faith, right? Me and Eric, my friend, we usually say it's a faith journey. Most times it can be daunting, can be crazy, but it's a faith journey. If you believe, you see it, right? But you only see it when you keep showing up. You only see it when you keep showing up. Who knows, maybe the day that you don't show up was the day that the universe has set up structures for you to excel at that moment, right? So keep showing up. Might not look at like it. Keep showing up. Keep putting in the work, right? You just need 1 yes. You just need 1 yes, and that's it, right? But if you don't show up, people won't see that consistency. They won't see that traction. They won't see that journey, right? And they might not be able to support you. But if you keep showing up, right? Good or bad, you're there, right? Most people ask me, how do you end up speaking on so many stuffs? It's because I enjoy doing it. I enjoy sharing my story. I enjoy sharing my journey. And that has opened me up to so many opportunities and so many speaking engagement that just came naturally. But if I did not really put myself out there, I did not really share my journey, my impact, my story, those opportunities will not come, right? So just keep showing up. It might not look like it, right? Just have that faith that the future is going to be great, right? But while you're still waiting for it, what are you doing to be better, right? What are you doing to grow? What are the skills you are building upon that will make you attain the goals you are looking for eventually? So that's my hack for it, basically.
Right. So I like that. I like that. I'm somebody who is big on faith as well. See, discovering purpose is really difficult but very rewarding. I remember there are memes we used to see online where somebody is digging into the ground and then
No, yeah,
it's just there from the
one
gold.
exactly.
Yes, and right, it's in fact it is something that have stopped a lot of people from growing. And as much as that was a funny meme, it speaks volumes if you truly look at it and key into what that thing was actually saying. And your story can clearly say the whole thing. Imagine that you gave up when you had no money in your account. Imagine that you gave up when I know there are times where people would ask you, this thing that you are doing, is it going to produce anything at all? There are times when people see you struggling late night, they're telling you, oh, this thing that you are doing, are you sure this is the thing you're supposed to do? I've had that experience.
Yeah,
You understand? So
yeah,
I can tell that you believed and trusted. You had faith in what you were doing, even though it was not really clear on what to do next, but you believed that there was going to be a way out, and it really helps. So, with that said, African leaders today are trying to pivot their business, move to, you know, grow their business scale. And what you are doing right now is going to affect the future of work, how work is going to be in Africa as a whole. So, what are the things you are seeing that would look like in the future of work, considering the industry that you are in, and considering the technologies your industry is bringing into the continent?
yeah. I think I had a session yesterday on how AI can transform career development and job search, and it shows you, for example, a lot of companies, global companies, are retrenching, right? Most of them are laying off staffs, and why they are doing that is because they have seen how amazing AI is and how efficient it can be, that they don't really need that much people to operate anymore. They have a system that works and they stick to it. So the future of work is going to be automated. And for that to happen, talents need to move super fast, right? They need to move super fast as much as AI and agents are moving. Yeah. So the important thing now is how skilled you are in the future of tech, how knowledgeable you are on these systems and how they work. It's no longer Microsoft Excel, PowerPoint anymore, right? We're talking about large language models. We're talking about AI agents. We're talking about serious automation, right? That's the skill sets businesses and organizations are looking for now, right? I gave an example yesterday. Alexander Wang, who is now the chief AI officer at Meta, was hired for $14 billion, right? $14 billion. Mark Zuckerberg needed him on board to lead Meta's AI super intelligence team. 14 billion, which is a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
Exactly, right? But shows you how important Meta needs to be ahead of the curve as regards to AI. And they need the best hands. As long as there's money, they're going to get the best hands. And they have recruited the best for that role, for that position, for the super intelligence team, right? So it shows you where companies are now piloting their focus on. A lot of organizations and tech companies abroad are now building data centers for AI, right? A lot of them are investing in processors, chips, to just be ahead of the curve, right? So talents need to also do that, right? What are the tech skills that are required to power these systems? Definitely, they will need hands to manage these systems, and those hands are those hands that are talented, with the skills required for those systems. So even though you are starting web development or you are doing the basic as simple as social media management and the rest, what are some of those future skills that you need to get that will make you stand out in your applications and in your job processes, right? What are some of those AI skills, maybe XR skills or other emerging tech skills that you need to get to be ahead of the curve? That's the only thing that will make you to maybe stand out in applications or even get hired, because the future of work is changing. AI is disrupting a lot of spaces, but as it is disrupting it, it's making new opportunities for people to get new jobs and new roles, right? We now have roles that are called generative AI officers, right? We have a chief AI officer, right? It shows you how the future is changing, and if you're not on board with AI, it's going to be really, really difficult, basically.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Well, now, with that said, what kind of okay? There's something I also wanted to point out, and the thing I wanted to point out was that you notice that I'll use myself as an example, being a developer, right? When integrating AI to your development process, speed is one thing that you gain, right? And you see, so companies will want to ship projects faster. They want to be able to ship this product. And so with AI in view now, they are sure that, okay, yes, they can actually ship this faster. You see, it helps them, and this is affecting how work is done in our generation now, as compared to how it has been happening before. So people need to start integrating these technologies in their workflow, else they'll be left behind.
A very good example is, so normally before, if you want to try an MVP for a project, you need to get a software developer to build that. Yeah. But with platforms now, you could just hit a prompt. You could get a full-blown prototype, like ready and working. Right? Just need to host it somewhere. So it shows you that the job role of a software developer has been limited by that platform, right? Just by a simple prompt, you could build an MVP that users can test, right? So it shows you how interesting the years ahead is going to be, and the industries are going to be transformed by the amazing possibilities of AI.
Yeah, that's really true. So what do you think that leaders in Africa now should start focusing on? Like, what are the kind of leadership that we need now in Africa, if you would say?
I would say we really need to catch up with upskilling, right? Upskilling is very important. We need to upskill our populations and our talents. For example, countries, for example, in the West, the United States, Asia, the Middle East, they are really investing heavily in upskilling their populations. I think I saw an update whereby the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia made an AI subscription for a platform free for its population, right? Like premium version subscription free for its population, because they want their population to be ahead. They want them to be ready for the future, right? So we need to find a way to invest in upskilling from the ground up, from primary schools to secondary schools. Kids need to get started with tech, right? Not just the basics of tech, but real hands-on development, right? And with that, they'll get the required skills and talents they need to do well in the job, right? So moving from theory, to practical based activities. So upskilling is very important, and also leadership with purpose. We really need to be intentional about leading our population with purpose, right? I feel if you are given a position, you should do well in that position, that you leaving that position will make people sad because you are doing an amazing job, right? So if you have the opportunity to lead or to be in a position of leadership, make that mark that generations yet unborn would acknowledge the great work you are doing. A very good example, which I would love to give, is the Minister of Interior in Nigeria. He practically disrupted the passport industry, right? The passport production industry. And before, for you to get a Nigerian passport would take a lot, but now you could apply online and within weeks you get your passport, right? the industry has been disrupted because this is one man that wants to make a change, that wants to make a mark. And nowhere in history that his name will not be mentioned for disrupting the passport backlog we have in the country.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. As a matter of fact, the week where they made that announcement, I saw it, and I think I was working somewhere. I was just taking a stroll with my wife, and then when I saw that, I was like, "Look, now we can now we can apply for," and it makes a lot of sense. I don't need to travel now, from here there to go and do. And nobody needs to travel to do all of those things. You just can do it from the comfort of your home. They can even send it over to you where you are, and you. So it makes a lot of sense. If leaders are going to be integrating most of all this new emerging technology into our processes in how we run the government, how we operate in society, we're going to see a huge shift from dependence on, because now, I'll give you a simple example. People who are in civil service states, like in Nigeria, there are certain states that are civil service states where everybody, virtually, if you want to be an income earner in that state, you have to be a civil servant. All right. If these emerging technologies are being integrated, it opens room for more people to get on board and for younger generation to become part of the government. Because the younger generation are getting these skills, but they don't know where to put them. They don't know where to use them. And these are the things that will help this younger generation take advantage of it moving forward. I want to take two more questions. Now, one of the questions I want to actually ask right now is that, what are the principles that guide you in making decisions, advise you to keep relationships? You mentioned that one of the things that allowed you to keep going is the kind of people that you had in your life. In times where you could no longer hold on, they were there to support you, they were there to give you all the support that you need. So what are the principles that guide you to make decisions in your business, in your life, in the relationship that you keep?
What will be the long-term impact of that decision, right? So thinking about what will be the results, basically, right? So most times it's thinking long-term in whatsoever decision you're going to make or take. And also it's trying to understand the situation at that moment, right, before you make that decision, right? Because most decisions can take and make a lot of impact for those around you, right? So you need to do like a context analysis to say, okay, if I'm going to make this move and make this decision, what will be the repercussions, right? Internally and externally, right? And making sure that it does not one way or the other disrupt your relationship or the activities you have with people around you. So long-term thinking in decision making is key. Understanding the context of making a decision at that moment, right, and the repercussions when needed, and also finding or getting feedback, external feedback or input before you make that decision. That's also very key, because most times experience is what is just needed for you to make that move, right? And you talking to people that have already gone ahead and seen how it is can make you make an informed decision.
So there's a question I want to ask you, and I don't know why it's sounding funny to me, but let me hear. If you are not doing anything around virtual reality or extended reality, what is one thing that you will be doing right now and you will do with all of your heart?
I would say maybe working in the airport or being a climatologist.
And you will do that with all of your heart.
Yeah, because I'm fascinated about space. I'm fascinated about the world beyond our own world, right? So maybe being an astronaut or just working in a space that revolves around flight, aviation, space would really be a thing of interest for me, because I'm really I was reading in the news yesterday that there's a comet, I think the Lemon Connect or some comet, something like that. That comet only comes in once in like 15,000 years or so, if I'm correct. So once in that duration, that's when it passes. And yes, like this week would be like the duration of it. So I was checking videos online to see how it looks like. Because we'll not see it again. I might not see it again in my generation. Yeah. So space is interesting, and I feel it would have been an amazing place to explore. So I feel I will definitely be connected to stuff that excites me, right? And space discovery, um, aviation is exciting and is interesting, right? So you need to be around something that would keep you going and keep you excited for the duration of your span on Earth, because we only have one life to live. Why not enjoy doing something that would really keep you going for that duration instead of just maybe being bored on a text and not really enjoying your time? So I would say I would have been at what working in aviation or in the space industry.
No, I know you mentioned earlier on where you talked about loving to speak to other people, loving to speak in events, loving to speak on sessions like this. But what is it that keeps you humble? I know that you're a very humble person. I can tell you for a fact there are a couple of people that have not experienced half of what you have, yet you can't get their attention. You can't even speak to them, all right? Not that they are busy, but they feel that you're not worth their time. You
Mm,
understand? So how do you stay humble meanwhile you have experienced so much and gained so much in a country, or let's say in a country or in a continent where pride is a very common thing?
mm. I feel I'm grounded by the theory of not underestimating the potentials of people. Yeah, because we don't know what can happen tomorrow. We don't know where we might be tomorrow. And I've seen people like yourself. I've experienced situations where people attain certain levels, right? I know everybody's busy and all. People attain certain levels that they just tend to disconnect from that their particular network and just move on to the next phase of their network, right? But they fail to understand that you got to that level based on the network and the resources you got at the earlier stage. Yeah. And those can still help you stay grounded, because upstairs might be crazy and might be rosy. Anything can happen. You might still fall down to the previous network. And if you did not keep those relationships one way or the other running, nobody will be there for you when you need people, right? So for me, staying grounded to the fact that anybody can help, anybody can support, right? It won't take you 3 minutes to respond to a message, right? Or even up to a minute, right? But who knows, that response can just help that person at that particular situation, or to just get better at what they were doing. So just stay humble as much as possible, right? And try as much as possible to sustain some of those relationships that got you to where you are and are pushing you forward eventually. So that's just my formula that keeps me grounded.
Okay, and then this is my final question for you, and the question is, if you are looking at your 11-year-old self, your 15-year-old self right now, your 20-year-old self right now, what is it that you're going to tell that version of you in order for him to get to a better place than you are currently? I know that where you are now may not be where you want to be, but you are there nonetheless. So what is one thing that you're going to tell your younger self in order for him to not make the mistakes you made, not make certain decisions that you made that you limited some of the things that you would have done? What is one thing that you would have told yourself?
I would say start early, right? It might be crazy, but just start early, right? With time, you'll see why you started early, but starting early is key. And enjoying the journey as much as possible, right? I think I did that, enjoy the journey, even though it was crazy, but start early, enjoy the journey, and have that faith to 100%, right? The faith should be 100%, and you attain a lot of things, right? And you reach like the far ends of the world. The world is super big, it's super big, right? And we have a lot of places to see and to experience, but just start, right? Start early and be out there as much as possible.
That makes sense. And I would also tell my younger self like that too. Start early. Start early. It's very, very important that you start early, because some of the things that we didn't do was because we are afraid. We are afraid
Mm,
what's going to happen. What if something goes wrong? Where are we going to fall back to? And we are afraid. So we have to go into having the confidence to do those
mm,
things. So I agree with you fear is one thing that we need. It's
And
not
funny
on the
enough,
thing that you're earlier on.
nobody cares.
Yeah.
Yeah, nobody cares. There are close to 8 billion people on the earth. Just start. Yeah, start, enjoy it, love it, be yourself. Right? You get to meet people that resonate and connect with what you're doing. Right? But if you don't, I think Miles Monroe said, the richest place on earth is the cemetery. Why? Because there are
That's
a
where
lot
people
of
are.
there are a lot of ideas, a lot of projects, a lot of initiatives that would have changed the world, but they did not start. They did not come into reality, right? So those ideas just left us, right? So the cemetery is the richest place on earth because there are innovations, there are ideas that would have changed the world, but they did not start.